Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the Tank Davis versus Frank Martin breakdown and prediction video. As Gervonta Tank Davis, the reigning undefeated WBA lightweight champion of the world, returns on Jesus, when is it? He returns on June 15th to defend his lightweight championship, the official lightweight title now too. This will be the first time he's defending the official lightweight title when he battles undefeated contender Frank Martin. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, you know, a lot of people I think are sleeping on this one, sleeping on Frank Martin. And I think that's a mistake. I really do. Now, before we start on this, if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, basically I break the fight fully down by breaking down each fighter. I start with discussing the fight and what it means and all that stuff and how big of a fight it is. I start with that, and then I get into each fighter individually in a fight like this. Championship fight, we'll talk about the champion first and then the challenger second. And I ask the same questions on both sides, and at the end of the video, I ask one final question, and then I give my prediction on the fight. So, this one right here. First, you know, the height and reach difference is not, you know, I think Frank Martin's 5'8", and Tank Davis is 5'5.5", so it's a 2.5 inch height advantage, and I want to say Martin's only got a 1/2 inch reach advantage. So, not the biggest difference right here. We know Tank, the WBA has officially come down and said, I think they've joined the IBF that you cannot weigh more than 10 pounds. Then the contracted weight the day of the fight. A lot of people are curious of the timing of this because it's, you know, the WBA is implementing this right for Tank's fight, you know, and I find that a little curious myself, but I also agree that no fighter should be weighing more than 10 pounds over the contracted weight. I think that's safe and healthy for every fighter in boxing. Again, with last year's Davis and Ryan Garcia fight, my issue was never the 10 pounds over. It was the fact that it was 2 weight clauses he put on Ryan Garcia, making him come down to a catch weight after he had already fought at 140 before, and then also doing the 10-pound stipulation. I thought that was bullshit. But for this one, I don't have a problem with it, with him and Frank Martin and the weight difference. But it could play a difference since it was just announced recently that it was going to be that way. You know, that could affect the preparations that Frank Martin potentially was making. And you never know, it could impact the fight. We'll see what happens. But this fight itself, you know, again, it's not the biggest fight. You know, personally, I was not thrilled when I saw that Frank Martin got the shot at Tank. But then again, I wasn't surprised. But then again, I kind of was, because Frank Martin, his style is more of a boxing style. The southpaw thing, I don't think is really going to throw Tank off. But the fact that Frank Martin is a boxing southpaw, it's a little interesting that Tank would go after a guy like that. So in terms of the style clash, maybe might prove difficult, but then again, it could be genius on Tank's part. If Tank's goal is to fight Vasily Lomachenko later in the year, then setting himself up against a slick boxing southpaw is a pretty good setup for that fight. So, again, not sure how good of a fight it's going to be. I really am not. But it's an interesting opponent, and don't sleep on Frank Martin. That's all I'm going to say. So now, let's get into each fighter. We start with Gervonta Tank Davis, the reigning and undefeated WBA lightweight champion of the world. 29-0, 27 knockouts. He's heading into this one. His last 3 fights date back to May of 2022. So a little over, he's fought 3 times in a little over 2 years. That night he knocked out Rolly Romero. I believe it was in the 6th round. It was a close fight up to that point. He caught him with a wicked left hand, put him down and out, and he stayed the WBA regular lightweight champion at that point. Then he returned on, when was that? He would return last year in January to take on Hector Luis Garcia, another southpaw who was an undefeated champion at 130, who was moving up in weight to fight Tank. He would defend the regular title against him and would stop him in, I believe it was 9 rounds, to stay undefeated. And then he got the super fight with Ryan in April of last year. Ryan Garcia put the 2 weight clauses on Ryan and stopped Ryan in 6 rounds to score the biggest win of his career, and retain, and that was met at a catch weight of 136 pounds. So 14-month layoff in between fights. Not sure how much that's going to affect them. But Tank obviously sees something here, and he's also talking about, Vasily Lomachenko, and now Loma's interested as well. So, for Tank, I think he's viewing Frank Martin as a prelude to something bigger. That could be a mistake, though, because, you should never overlook an opponent, especially a guy that can box like Frank Martin. So, what kind of fight does Tank need to have, what kind of fight does he need to have to win this contest? And I think Tank needs to box a little bit, but not get into just a boxing match. I think he should attack early and see what Frank Martin does. Like, test out the speed, go after Frank Martin a little bit, and see how Frank Martin reacts to that, see what kind of chin Frank Martin has, also see what kind of punch Frank Martin has. Let Frank Martin get a couple shots in there by taking some risk early to see what he's got, and then maybe start, also a body attack on Frank Martin, I think would be monumental for Davis. I think he should attack the body and then, and then move up to the head. Slow Frank Martin down. Now, can Gervonta Tank Davis win this fight by knockout? I've never seen Frank Martin in there with somebody on Davis's level yet. So that's so we've never seen Frank Martin be knocked out. But I do believe Tank Davis can win this fight by knockout because he's a knockout artist up to this point. Can Tank Davis win a decision here? To be honest, stylistically, I think it's going to be tough for Tank to win a decision over Frank Martin. I don't think Tank's going into this one with the mentality of letting it get to 12, get to the final belt. I do believe he can win a decision, but it's going to be close. Now, what's more likely? Tank Davis knockout or a Tank Davis decision over Frank Martin? And to be honest, I have to say, I think Tank Davis knockout. He's a knockout artist, and I really believe it's more likely that he wins this fight by a knockout than a decision. But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to the scorecards. I think Frank Martin's a pretty good opponent. Now, what does a win mean for Tank Davis here? Well, it keeps the mystique going, especially if it's an impressive victory. It keeps the mystique going of how good he really is, and it keeps a potential showdown with a bunch of potential showdowns. Isaac Cruz at 140, Vasily Lomachenko. It keeps a lot of those options open for right now. A win for Davis over Martin. So a win means a lot. Now, what does a loss mean? A loss would be devastating right now for Tank, because he's rolling and he's keeping everybody believing that he's still that very special, very good fighter. Excuse me. Now, whether he is or not, we really don't know yet, or still. because he hasn't fought a truly elite fighter without putting some kind of weight clause issue on him. And to be honest, Ryan wasn't even a truly elite fighter when he fought him. So it's still kind of up in the air, but a loss to a guy like Frank Martin would be significant. It would be big. It would definitely hurt Davis's start. Okay, so now we switch over to the challenger, the undefeated challenger, Frank Martin, 18-0, 12 knockouts. His last 3 fights have been his best victories. They date back to July of 2022, where he defeated Jackson Marinas by a 10th round TKO in an impressive performance that night. He returned and took on Michel Rivera, who was undefeated, and outworked and outclassed Rivera to a 12-round unanimous decision. And then last year, he only fought 1 time when he took on, I believe it was in July again, and it was, he took on Artem Hardarunyan and outboxed him in a competitive fight, but outboxed him to a 12-round unanimous decision to stay undefeated. So Frank Martin has fought almost 3 in the last, in about 2 years, has fought about 34 rounds. So he's gotten his rounds in. And, he's looking to pull off the upset. He's hungry. He's looking to pull off the upset. It's a big opportunity for him. He has the height advantage, the reach advantage, a tad. That's not really much, but he has the height advantage. And his boxing style is that, he's very confident. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if Frank Martin can pull off this upset right here. Because definitely, I think he's hungry, and I think he wants to capitalize on this opportunity here. Now, what kind of fight does Frank Martin need to fight in order to beat Gervonta Tank Davis? And I really think he needs to be stepping to his left and not let Davis cut the ring off. And I think he needs a stick and move. Not get caught by that big right hand, or that big left hand, or that uppercut that Tank has. Don't get in there and mix it up. I would box and stay on the outside and use the angles. I think Martin might be the better boxer. So if he can use the angles and outwork Tank Davis, I think he has a chance here. I really do. Now, can Frank Martin win this fight by knockout? I mean, we haven't really seen Tank get hurt. But every dog has his day, and I think Martin, if he times his punches well, he might be able to hurt Tank and put him down. I also think potentially just overwhelming him over 12 and getting him into the deep waters might be the key. But I think a knockout's going to be tough for him. Now, can he win a decision? I honestly think Frank Martin can win a decision here. I think he has the boxing ability and the style to be able to frustrate Tank and win a decision if it gets there. Now, what's more likely? Frank Martin, if he's victorious over Tank Davis, would it be a knockout or a decision? I think a decision's more likely. He's not a big-time knockout artist, and he's a crafty boxer, and I think if he boxes Davis, he might be able to pull this one off. So I definitely think it's possible that he can win this fight by a decision, and he might be able to win a clear decision as well. So yeah, I definitely think that's possible. Now, what does a win mean for Frank Martin over Tank Davis? It means everything. That would be by far the biggest victory of his career. He would throw himself into the really serious mix. And, I mean, who knows? Like, maybe get a rematch if the fight's close. It would mean a lot for Frank Martin in his career to pull off an upset victory over Tank Davis. Now, what does a loss mean for Frank Martin? Well, I don't think a lot of people are really expecting him to win this fight. So a loss, I don't think it would hurt him. It would kill him. It would be his first loss, so that would hurt. But I don't think it would hurt him bad. But the better he does, the better, I think, the more successful future he's going to have. So if he goes out there and gets his ass whipped and gets blitzed, I think he's going to kind of fall to the wayside, especially with his style, and he's going to be kind of avoided. if he's very competitive in the fight, maybe he's winning the fight, he gets stopped late, or he loses a close decision, then he can jump right back into the mix, and he's considered to be a serious guy still that you got to deal with. So I definitely think a loss will hurt, but it's I think a loss hurts Tank Davis a lot more than it hurts Frank Martin in this one. Now, the final two things. First, my final question is it better for boxing if Tank Davis wins this fight or if Frank Martin wins this fight? And that one's easy. It's better for boxing if Tank Davis wins this fight. He's a star. He brings in, a lot of people tune in to watch Tank Davis fight. A lot of people have bought into the hype. And, after last year's win over Ryan Garcia, he's even a bigger name. So people want to see Tank fight. And I think a victory for Tank over Frank Martin would, is definitely better for boxing. But Frank Martin has a nice story. He's young. He's undefeated. It wouldn't be bad if he pulled off the upset, but it's definitely better for boxing if Tank Davis pulls off the victory. And now finally, my prediction. Who do I think is going to win this fight between Tank Davis and Frank Martin? And, I haven't seen enough of Frank Martin. I know he's hittable. And I think Tank, the one thing he does well against these opponents that he's fought is he times them well. He times his punches well. He does have a solid body attack, and his left hand is explosive with the uppercut or with the straight left. And I think Tank is going to win this fight by wearing down the body. I think he's going to be a lot more active against Frank Martin. He's going to be on the attack. And I think he's going to pound the body to slow him down. And then I think in the middle to later rounds, he's going to land those big shots that are going to hurt Frank Martin and stop him. But I believe Frank Martin is a very, very, very live underdog in this fight. And I definitely think he has a chance to pull off the victory. I haven't seen enough of him against top level competition to say how good or how good he really is. But I do think I see a lot of potential in him, and with his style, if he can avoid those big shots getting landed consistently, and if he can move away from the body work that Tank's going to try to implore, I think he's got a crack at this one. I think he could pull off a decision win and a big upset on June 15th. So we'll see. But again, I'm picking Tank Davis by a stoppage win in the middle to later rounds to retain his lightweight title. Now, that's it. That's what I got. That is my Davis versus Martin breakdown and prediction video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.